much has the window potentially closed on getting more defined language around brokers where cryptocurrency is concerned now?
In terms of the amendment to the bill itself, it's probably pretty closed. I can't imagine a world where they're reopening any of it for this one specific provision. Now, I know that Senators Portman and others did try, and Warner tried to read language into the legislative history to kind of inform the actual enforcement of the provision of this amendment. So it is possible that it'll be enforced in a way that it really should have been written in the first place. But to me, the bigger point here isn't even so much whether they got this particular language a little right or a little wrong. It's that you can't regulate crypto in an ad hoc random way. This is a random provision in a bill that has nothing to do with crypto. And it is time to have thoughtful crypto regulation and a real regulatory framework. And that's where Congress and the president needs to lead.
Wyoming Senator Cynthia Lummis. She is the co-chair of the Financial Innovation Caucus. Senator, great to have you with us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Are you still hopeful that the language in the bill will actually change in the House?
I hope it will become law either in the House or later this year in the Senate. It is not going to be part of the bill that we will be voting on today.
What happens if the language remains so that it's more far-reaching than you would like to see?
If that happens, we will be watching Treasury very carefully to make sure that they narrowly craft the rules and regulations around the definition of broker. That became the issue. They were trying to define broker in a way that would catch people within the cryptocurrency world that don't have information that's helpful to the IRS and could put them in a very difficult place. I think it expressed a fundamental misunderstanding of how digital assets are built and are placed on the blockchain. So we've got a lot of education to do in Washington.
And certainly in Wyoming, I mean, Wyoming has vied for a while to be a crypto capital in the United States. I believe that as of June, there are about 48 LLCs registered in Wyoming with the term Bitcoin in them. You've got Kraken and some others partially setting up shop in Wyoming. So I'm curious, Senator, how you see, I mean, if the original language went in and it was a far-reaching definition of broker, how does that play out actually in the industry? Does it impact the crypto industry in Wyoming?
It could hit people all over the country and indeed all over the world who are doing business in the United States. For example, it could hit miners, it could hit validators, it could hit people who prepare software and hardware for digital wallets, personal digital wallets. People who are not in the business of being a broker, but rather are part of the decentralized peer-to-peer transactions that frequently occur with regard to digital assets. So we worked very hard with Treasury. It was bipartisan. I want to really thank Senator Ron Wyden, Senator Pat Toomey, as well as the sponsors of the bill that we've been working with. That would be Senator Portman and Senator Sinema. Finally, we did reach language that Treasury was comfortable with. It was a compromise, but it was rejected because, as you know, any senator can object, and we've had a lot of back and forth going on between people who want to run out the clock here and extend debate and those who want to shorten debate. And because of all of the back and forth, this amendment fell on the cutting room floor yesterday.
Are you, you've been sort of at the forefront of crypto in your state because of what it wants to be in the crypto industry, but I'm curious if you think that your colleagues, either in the Senate or in the House, is everybody sort of at that point in terms of education to be legislating on crypto in your view? I mean, there is a perception in the industry amongst industry leaders, at least, that perhaps Congress isn't informed enough about the blockchain, for instance, and about issues of crypto to actually be legislating on the issue.
I agree with the leaders in the industry. The Senate is not ready. Most members are not familiar with digital assets and how they even come to be. But the silver lining behind working on this amendment for the last week or so has been that now members are getting more aware of how significant this industry is. And I want to thank people within the digital asset community for contacting their senators and beginning to weigh in with them. And their senators heard them loud and clear. What they heard is this is a substantial community and a growing community all over the country in every state, and that their senators need to learn about this asset and pay more attention to these people, because they're constituents that are paying attention and need to learn from their constituents and from each other about this asset. That's definitely been the advantage of having this debate, even though we were ultimately unsuccessful in getting the amendment attached to the bill.
Joining us right now on what this means for the industry is Meltem DeMorris, CoinShares Chief Strategy Officer. Good morning to you. What do you make of the decision? Good morning. What do you make of this decision? Because I think we thought that there was going to be something more than what ultimately took place.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, the process has been confusing, to say the least. I think one great outcome of all of this is many of us have learned how the lawmaking process in America works, which is not very straightforward. So the regulatory process here, this infrastructure bill, 1.5 trillion of new spending, they needed some taxation to insert into that bill. Crypto was one area where apparently there's $30 billion of taxes from the crypto space that are going to magically materialize. Not really clear where that number came from. And one of the key provisions that was under debate is, well, what defines a service provider in the crypto space? There were 3 different amendments that were proposed over a 72-hour period. And then last night, voting came to a rapid halt. There was a new amendment that was proposed that was supposed to have unilateral support. That also did not get support. So now where do we go? We go to the House, and that's where the lawmaking will continue. So again, I don't think this is monumental for the crypto industry. It's certainly far from over. These changes don't get implemented, I don't believe, until 2023. So we have time, but it's been a fascinating process to watch, and the crypto community definitely came out in full force.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. If it's not a big deal, though, why has the crypto community been so vocal? I mean, we've heard from Mark Andreessen sending letters. Elon Musk is tweeting about it. Jack Dorsey is out there. You don't typically see these big names all get behind one issue if this is not monumental.
I think what we've reached is sort of a tipping point when it comes to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. There are over 46 million Americans, over 15% of our population here in this country holds a cryptocurrency of some type. And yet still, when it comes to our policy making, there's a very little education or awareness of cryptocurrencies and the issues surrounding them. I think there's also this continued misperception that crypto is an unregulated, shadowy corner of finance, which it's not. It's been regulated by an alphabet soup of agencies for multiple years now. So I think part of what this highlights is the fundamental divide between the rest of the country, the tech community, investors, and K Street and what's happening in Washington, D.C.
Well, so there's one issue, which is what Congress and the Senate are going to do with this specific amendment, as we just discussed. The other I was going to mention is, we had a conversation last week with Gary Gensler on this program about the way he's thinking about regulating cryptocurrencies. And clearly, it sounds like he's, for example, not ready to approve a Bitcoin ETF or something like that, and still believes that there's lots of work that needs to get done on the regulatory side, even around the wallets and custody and all sorts of other issues before it could reach, if you will, escape velocity. It may have already reached escape velocity. We could debate that. But where do you think the regulatory scheme is, and how many years are we away from that type of moment?
I think the fundamental issue here is we're talking about a regulatory structure where the way we've historically regulated finance and financial services is on the basis of jurisdiction, the physical perimeter, the physical location of your business. If you sit in a certain state, you're subject to the laws of that state plus federal laws. The challenge with cryptocurrencies and cryptocurrency trading venues, these are global, permissionless, fully digital markets that operate 24/7, 365 without central intermediaries. Obviously, there are a number of publicly listed companies and private companies that act as intermediaries, but these things can function without intermediaries. This is new. This is something that many people don't really conceptually grasp quite yet. And at a fundamental level, it's really incompatible with how rulemaking has historically worked. You can't pick up a phone and call the CEO of Bitcoin, but you can pick up the phone and call the CEO of, say, a Coinbase or a Kraken or a Gemini. So I think part of this is just a function of time and really understanding, are there existing regulatory boxes that these things fit into? If not, do we need to create new boxes? And I think that was part of, Gary Gensler's commentary is we don't quite yet know what box we're in.
Right. Before I let you go, I don't know if you saw, but AMC, which we've been talking about as a meme stock, I know it's not crypto, except for the fact that the CEO made a big to-do of the fact that they're going to accept Bitcoin. I sent out a little bit of a snarky tweet saying, most people who are buying Bitcoin are hoping it's going to go up. They're not planning to use it to sell buy their movie tickets for $12 and find out later that they're $12 movie tickets. If things work out, they would have spent thousands of dollars on those movie tickets. How important do you think it is that Bitcoin and crypto are used for transactions, actually Bitcoin specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I don't spend my Bitcoin. I know many other people don't. At this point in the year 2021, I think accepting cryptocurrencies is so easy. It's a couple of simple API integrations on the back end. There's a number of companies that provide this service. So at this point, I think it's table stakes. I don't think it's groundbreaking unless you're holding Bitcoin on your balance sheet, which is obviously a very different approach. But most vendors and most retailers aren't. So to me, it's a lot of ado about nothing. It's great to see crypto being integrated in the payment system side of our payment infrastructure. But at this point, table stakes in my view.